The United States. America built the bomb first. The Manhattan Project spent $2 billion in the 1940s, recruited the greatest scientific minds on Earth, and produced a weapon that ended World War II in 2 blasts over Japan. Hiroshima. Nagasaki. The world was never the same. Today, the U.S. holds around 5,500 nuclear warheads, with roughly 1,700 deployed and ready. They operate what's called a nuclear triad: land-based missiles buried in silos across the Midwest, submarine-launched missiles hidden deep underwater, and nuclear-capable bombers that can be airborne within minutes. The idea is simple. No single first strike can take out all 3 legs. You hit the silos, the submarines launch. The triad makes the U.S. impossible to fully disarm. The cost of maintaining this apparatus runs into the hundreds of billions over decades. America doesn't just have nuclear weapons. It built the entire infrastructure of nuclear deterrence that the modern world runs on. Russia. Russia has more nuclear warheads than any country on Earth. Approximately 6,200 total, a legacy of the Soviet arms race that nearly bankrupted an empire trying to match American firepower missile for missile. The Soviets tested their first bomb in 1949, 4 years after the U.S., and then spent decades building a stockpile so large it could destroy civilization several times over. When the Soviet Union collapsed, those weapons were scattered across multiple republics. Ukraine, Belarus, Kazakhstan all woke up nuclear-armed overnight. The Budapest Memorandum of 1994 eventually returned those weapons to Russia in exchange for security guarantees, a deal that has since become one of the most debated documents in modern history. Russia also maintains a triad. But what makes Russia distinct is its investment in exotic delivery systems: hypersonic glide vehicles, nuclear-powered cruise missiles, underwater nuclear torpedoes. Moscow is not just maintaining its arsenal, it is actively evolving it. China. China tested its first nuclear weapon in 1964 and then did something unusual. It stopped. For decades, China maintained a minimal deterrent by choice: a few hundred warheads, enough to absorb a first strike and retaliate, nothing more. Chinese doctrine was always no first use. We won't launch first, but if you hit us, we hit back. That posture is changing. China is now believed to be expanding toward 1,500 warheads by 2035. New missile silos are being constructed across the Western Desert at a pace that has alarmed Western intelligence agencies. China is building a full triad for the first time, developing submarine-launched capabilities that give it a second strike option the ocean can hide. The world's most consequential nuclear buildup isn't in Russia. It's quietly happening in China. The United Kingdom. Britain's nuclear identity is almost entirely submarine-based. 4 Vanguard-class submarines carry the entire British deterrent, rotating continuously through the Atlantic, so at least one is always at sea, always armed, always invisible. The UK holds about 225 warheads and is committed to never letting those submarine patrols lapse, a policy called continuous at-sea deterrence that has run unbroken since 1969. No days off, no gaps. Somewhere in the ocean right now, a British submarine is on patrol with nuclear missiles ready. Britain's program is deeply intertwined with America's. The missiles themselves are American-made Tridents, serviced at a U.S. facility in Georgia. The special relationship has a nuclear dimension most people never think about. France. France looks at American dependency and says, "Non merci." The French nuclear program was built on a single principle: strategic autonomy. Paris does not rely on NATO's nuclear umbrella. It does not coordinate with Washington. France built its own bomb, tested it in the Algerian desert and later the South Pacific, and runs its own independent deterrent entirely on French terms. France holds around 290 warheads, split between submarine-launched missiles and air-launched weapons carried by French fighter jets. The doctrine is direct. Any existential threat to France triggers a nuclear response at French discretion, full stop. No committee, no consultation. The French president alone holds that authority. In a world where NATO's reliability occasionally gets questioned, France's position is unusually clear. Pakistan. Pakistan's nuclear program is perhaps the most dangerous on Earth, not because of size, but because of context. Islamabad tested its first nuclear weapon in 1998, just weeks after India conducted its second-ever test. Two countries with a history of wars, contested borders, and deep mutual suspicion were now both officially nuclear. Pakistan now holds an estimated 170 warheads and is expanding. Unlike most nuclear powers, Pakistan has not committed to a no-first-use policy. Facing India's larger conventional military, Pakistan explicitly reserves the right to use nuclear weapons first if it faces an existential conventional defeat. That is an extraordinarily tense posture. It means a ground war between India and Pakistan carries a nuclear escalation risk that simply does not exist between most other nuclear states. The AQ Khan network, a Pakistani scientist who sold nuclear technology to North Korea, Libya, and Iran, is a reminder that Pakistan's nuclear apparatus has not always been fully contained. India. India tested its first nuclear device in 1974, calling it a peaceful nuclear explosion with a straight face. The world was unconvinced. India sits at a unique junction, nuclear tensions with Pakistan to the west and a rising China to the north. It holds roughly 180 warheads and, unlike Pakistan, officially maintains a no-first-use doctrine. India will not strike first but promises massive retaliation if struck. India is now building a nuclear triad, with submarines joining its land and air capabilities. It is one of the few countries expanding nuclear capabilities in all three domains simultaneously. The India-Pakistan nuclear balance is the most watched potential flashpoint on Earth. Two nuclear-armed neighbors with live territorial disputes and a history of near misses is a combination that keeps defense analysts awake at night. Israel. Israel has never officially confirmed it has nuclear weapons. This is called nuclear ambiguity, and it is an intentional, decades-long policy. Israel neither confirms nor denies its arsenal. It has never signed the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. It has never allowed international inspections of its Negev Nuclear Research Center at Dimona. Most intelligence estimates put Israel's stockpile between 80 and 400 warheads, a range so wide it reflects how little outsiders actually know. What analysts agree on is that Israel has a second strike capability, meaning it can absorb a devastating attack and still retaliate. The ambiguity serves a purpose. It deters enemies without forcing regional neighbors to formally declare Israel a nuclear nation and respond in kind. It is the most sophisticated piece of strategic communication in nuclear history. Everyone knows. Nobody says it. And the entire Middle East operates around an open secret. North Korea. North Korea is the only country to have tested nuclear weapons in the 21st century, and the hardest to understand from the outside. The regime conducted its first test in 2006 and has been advancing rapidly ever since. North Korea now likely holds 40 to 50 warheads, possibly more, with missiles theoretically capable of reaching the continental United States. The logic of North Korea's program is not aggression, it is survival. Kim Jong-un watched Saddam Hussein and Muammar Gaddafi both give up weapons of mass destruction programs, and both end up dead. He drew a direct conclusion. The nuclear weapon is the only guarantee the regime survives. Every sanction, every negotiation, every diplomatic summit runs against that calculation. North Korea is not trying to win a war. It is trying to make starting a war unthinkable. 9 countries. 9 different calculations. 9 different reasons they built the most destructive weapons in human history, and 9 different reasons they haven't used them since 1945. The bomb doesn't just destroy cities. It restructures the entire logic of international conflict. Every war fought since 1945 has been fought in the shadow of weapons that nobody wanted to be the first to use again. That shadow is still there, and all 9 of these countries are counting on it.